Francis here from Emtbr. Today, I'd like to give you my 10 best tips to help you maximize your e-mountain biking experience. Okay, my number one piece of advice is really take care of your drivetrain, your chain, your cassette, your chain rings, and your derailleur. What's happening here is the stuff we're using is the same as traditional mountain bikes. In traditional mountain bikes, you see about 200 watts of power, but these can see up to 700 watts of power. Some from the motor and some from you. So they're under a lot of stress, and they're really not made for this kind of stress. And they're the ones that are gonna break first. A broken chain, you know, worn out cassette, sound familiar? So what you wanna do is really clean your chain and cassette every ride, and then take the time to lube it. Lube it properly, have a good routine, a good technique station where you could do this routinely and take care of that. The next thing is check your intervals. You know, after 500 miles, check that chain. When the chain wears out and stretches, it'll stretch everything out in your drivetrain, and it becomes a very costly proposition. So my number two piece of advice is really respect water. You know, keep it away from the sensitive parts of your e-bike. And what do I mean by that? A normal mountain bike, you can submerge it in water. You know, if you have good bearings, you'll be okay. It'll get creaky here and there. But an e-mountain bike, you get it underwater, you get the sensitive parts wet. What happens? It stops working. And it's not something you can fix yourself. Usually you have to go to a bike shop, or they have to send it to the manufacturer. So really the charging port is a key point of entry where the water can get in. When you wash your bike, make sure you drain it properly. I have an air compressor back there, and it really helps after a ride or a wash routine just to dry everything out. So all the electrical connections, very critical that you keep them dry and rust free. All right, my number three piece of advice is about riding. I'm gonna mix everything up. You know, how to ride, where to ride, and how to take care of your ride. And my number three piece of advice is hold your rear brake and modulate your speed with this brake when you're doing a technical climb. And what do I mean by that? You know, when you're out on a switchback or super rocky climb, don't be off on your pedals just like a normal bike. Why? Because it takes a while for the motor to shut off, and it takes a while for the motor to get back on. So, you know, that could be the difference between making a technical climb or a switchback and not. And so what you want to do is you want to take advantage of your motor. You just want to keep it engaged the whole time. And how do you do that? By just constant pressure. And obviously you want to slow down, right? So you just hold your rear brake, not your front, because the bike will dive. Hold your rear brake and just modulate that way, and just be on power the whole time. And this works wonders for switchbacks and technical climbs. All right, my number four piece of advice is spend less money. And how do you do that? When it comes time to replace your chain and your cassette and whatnot, I'd say downgrade your drivetrain. What do I mean? So if you're lucky enough to have XDR and XX1 on your bikes, on e-bikes, it really doesn't help you out. In fact, it harms you more. Why? Because it's so expensive, and usually these things are lighter and not as sturdy, and they don't last as long as the beefy stuff. So for me, both on XDR, when I have to replace the chain and cassette, I downgrade to SLX. You know, XT is good, but SLX works just as good. It's a little heavier, a couple 100 grams, but what's a couple 100 grams on a 50-pound bike, right? And on SRAM, XX1 with Axis is the worst because it shifts so fast, and you hear that pack, 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 pack. And man, when I got a GX cassette or even an NX cassette, you know, my bikes work so much better. So not only do they work better, but they will motivate you to replace your cassette much more often than if it had XX1. You know, it's a question difference between $100 and $500 is what we're talking about. Number five piece of advice about charging. As soon as you get home, you know, you clean your bike and lube your chain. That's the time to charge your bike. Charge it fully. Don't worry about it. You know, don't charge it the morning of. Have a charging station where your cables, especially if you have more than one e-bike, where everything's organized. You lean it the right way and you plug it in, and it's not to be touched. Because when they're touched, you know, sometimes the cranks can get in the way of the charging wire and break it. So get in the habit of the routine. Unless you're storing it for a month or 6 months, you just keep it fully charged. It's fine. It's got headroom both on the empty and then the full, so it protects the battery, you know. So that way it's on the ready, and you want to be at 100% every ride. I have some friends who are like always 70 or 90% every ride, or they don't charge every ride. Big mistake, let me tell you that. Number 6 piece of advice is if you want to get fit or you want to maintain your top fitness from your analog days, I have a couple tricks for you. One is start all your e-mountain bike rides on off or eco mode, meaning first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with, allow your body to adjust to the effort. That's one problem with e-bikes, is if you're boosted from the beginning, you never adjust to the effort and your muscles never warm up. So it's very hard to really get a workout and really push your muscles. So, you know, get that burn first 5-10 minutes. Just a warm up, it does wonders. You'll save your battery because you'll be able to help out a lot more. The other piece of advice in conjunction with this is if you really want to get fit, stay away from turbo mode. Turbo mode is great because it compresses time, but it's very hard to get a workout. It's very hard to help. Why? Because you need resistance from the bike for you to put out maximum power. And guess what? Turbo mode has almost no resistance. You're at the top of the crank so quickly and the motor puts out its 500 watts. Very difficult to help. I just hyperventilate when I try to put big watts while on turbo mode. Number 7 piece of advice is counter to the drivetrain advice, is spend the most money you can afford on your brakes and your suspension, especially that rear shock is often ignored. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna ride a lot more, descend a lot more, and man, that motor helps you climb, right? 6,000 feet, but it helps you zero in the descending part. In fact, it hurts you because it's heavier, it's got more inertia, you know, it plows through corners and whatnot. So you wanna help your cause and really get the best brake. 4-piston is the norm, big rotors, you know, what do you call that? 200, 220 rotors. Don't be afraid to experiment, you know, get the best stuff. Suspension as well. Suspension, you want something that doesn't heat up as much. It's got a reservoir and it has a lot of adjustability. When you can control the movement of that heavy bike, that 50-pound bike, it really feels lighter and it feels more agile. So a lot of damping, adjustability is key to your enjoyment of your e-bike. Number 8 piece of advice is armor your bike and armor your body. Often before, it was always on my XC rides, on my analog bike, I would like debate whether I need my knee pads or not, or whether I need my fast track tires or my butchers. Now, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to be compromised or optimized for the type of ride. Just get your bike ready for the big rides and see where it takes you. Meaning, you know, get your big tires, big knobs, you know, front and rear with some good casing. Maybe put some of that ride wrap on your bike because it's going to go through a lot of gnarly terrain. And then don't forget about your body as well. You know, like I said, knee pads. You know, what we do now, I know about 20 folks, I convinced them all to use mountain bike pants. You know, not the downhill super thick pants, but just mountain bike pants. And they come in different thicknesses. That way you're always protected. Pants where you can put knee pads underneath. You're protected from poison oak, from scratches and whatnot, and long sleeves as well. And some of my colleagues, they go with a full face helmet all the time, goggles or protective shades. Everything is protected. Nice gloves with knuckle protection. You know, optimized now for the ride, for the rowdy ride. You know, you're gonna get rad, maybe learn a little bit, and you don't. There really is no downside because you have an assist motor. Okay, number 9 piece of advice is go on longer rides so you can finish your rides a lot quicker. I do my 3-hour rides now in like 1 hour, and so, but then it's awesome because you compress time, right? But then you might end up riding less hours, meaning less fit, less time out there in the wilderness. So just keep your hours the same, and I think what's going to happen to most of you folks is you add hours to your riding enjoyment, because now instead of riding 3 days a week, and you can go 4 days or 5 days a week, because you never have a bad day. You know, even on your worst day where you can't climb, you know, 500 feet, you know, you have help. So go on big adventures. You know, don't always take the same trail all the time. Just go on different parts. And also, if there's some technical features, you now have repetition on your side. Now you don't have to do that one sweet downhill with 5 jumps once a month. You can do it, you know, 5 times a day if you want, and really work on your technique. You know, develop now that you have repetition, all you need now is a little bit of instruction, put some YouTube video, and really improve your cornering, your descending technique. Same thing with the uphill. Uphill, now you don't have physical stamina getting in the way. You can do a 2 mile technical uphill and really practice all your skills, because now it's all skill. Leg power and power to weight ratio is not a factor, but you will need all the skill in the world to get up a very technical section. Okay, and last part, just some tricks to load your mountain bike on your vehicle. Normally you don't have to do that. You can just ride from home, hopefully, but often the rad stuff is a little farther away. So a couple tricks I'll tell you about. One is take your battery out if your bike's super heavy and you're not that strong. The next one is, do the one wheel mount at a time. So hopefully you have a tray rack. So grab your rear brake and back up the bike. Front wheel will lift up with almost no effort. Put that on the tray and then lift the rear. So always split the bike's weight in half. If you want to put it on a pickup truck like I do, because pickup is like so solid, make sure you bend the knees and exercise proper form like a clean and jerk, and lock your arms or get it close to lock. Don't be like this. Get it out there where it's stable. When you are getting the bike down from the tailgate, it's a little tougher because you have to pick it up like this. So I drag it on the tailgate and then I do front wheel first. So there's some strategies, and then I just drop it, let the suspension take the hit when it's safe. And then finally, one technique as well is if there's only 1 or 2 bikes and you have help, is to just lower the tailgate. Lower the tailgate, keep the front wheel angled, cocked, and then push it down, straighten out the rear wheel, and then you almost have no weight you're lifting. And use your front brake to modulate as you get that bike down. So there you go, 10 tips, 10 best e-bike hacks. Maybe we call it that. And please let me know in the comments. We're gonna have a lot more things like this, and maybe I'll put them in categories in the future. Thanks a ton.